Welcome back, class, to another exciting episode of Com 1010 with your favorite game show host and mine, Professor Ann Toon. Well, we are in week 13 at this point, and I'm sorry, week 12. What was I thinking? I wanted to go faster than you do. No, joking aside. I actually am getting not delirious, but I feel like it's getting close to the end, even though we still have a few more weeks to go. That being said, let's start, or let me, I should say, start sharing my screen with you so that way we can get you going on this week. Look, no more chapters to talk about, which is fantastic when you think about it. I mean, who would have thought that we would actually be done dealing with chapters and learning curve quizzes? So that being said, let's take a look at this really, really quickly. This week, since there are no more chapter quizzes to go through, what we are going to be doing is a lot of assignments. And the first one is, again, briefly go over audience analysis number 2, which is due the end of this week on Sunday, which is, of course, on 11:59, or I should say at 11:59 p.m. Also, we will go over briefly, I shouldn't say briefly. Actually, no, it is going to be briefly because you'll end up understanding. You'll go over briefly engagement activity number 4. And again, this is a group project. So that being said, you have to understand that this has to be collective. Also, we're going to go over exam number 2, which is due week 13. We're going to also briefly discuss extra credits, go over in more detail the persuasion speech, which is due on week 14. And of course, attendance this week has to do with engagement activity number 4. So without further ado, what I want to kind of do is go over this particular calendar. So here we are. And what is due is your audience analysis number 2, as well as engagement activity number 2. And if you look, they are all due this end of this week, which is April the 4th at 11:59 p.m. So that is something that you have to remember. And if it is engagement activity number 4, which is a group project, then that means that just like the instructions had said from last week, go and do it as a collective group project, not as an individual. And of course, only one out of your group, whether it's 4 or 5, 2, I don't know how many people are going to be in your group, because again, we're going to go off the same exact group as engagement activity number 3. And whoever is assigned the person to upload, then that person not only uploads the assignment in its entirety, but also signifies in the upload who worked on it and who didn't. If you all came together, if one of you missed out, if 3 of you missed out, whatever it is. So again, this is, so you understand, a group project, not an individual, but a group. It's the same group that you had for engagement activity number 3. And we'll go over just briefly as to where to find that group for you again. And then again, one person submits all of everything that is to be submitted, the assignments. And also in that assignment says exactly who ended up working on it and who didn't. Briefly go over your multiple choice exam number 2, which is due the following week. And again, your persuasive speech. So for discussing your extra credit due date, let's look really, really quickly when your due date is when it comes to your extra credits. Let me go really quickly into a module. And it goes all the way down. Your extra credits are all due by April the 18th. So remember that. If you do them ahead of time, then that's fine, but no later than April the 18th. If you go down into this module, you will go into great detail as to what your communications concepts are, as well as the speaker outside of the room. Both of these have great detail as to what to expect. The maximum amount of points is 15 in order to get your extra credit points in. But the one that I've always encouraged, and I'm going to continue to encourage, and why I'm saying this to you right now, is the Public Speaking Resource Center. Why? Because your particular persuasive speech is coming up in about 2 weeks. So what you can do is go through and speak with, as well as work with, Daryl Frazier. Again, these are his hours, these are the directions. What you are expected prior to going there is having some form of work. If you need the help in terms of performance, if you need help in terms of organizing your outline, if you need a few more tips and tricks that either the book hasn't provided, any of my lectures have not provided, or even all of the other tips and tricks that I have within those modules. If nothing is working out for you, then what I encourage you to do is to go to Daryl. And so Daryl, as you approach him or as you set the appointment, what you are expected is to have something in order to go there. You can't go with nothing. And I say go, set the appointment. He possibly does a Zoom. You are expected to have something substantial prior to going. He is not to find a topic for you. He is not there to organize your entire outline for you. He is not there to perform for you. He's not getting the grade, you are. But what is expected is the fact that you can actually, or the win-win is that if you do use him, if you do utilize Daryl, then you will end up getting 5 points for every 30 minutes that you use him, and you maximize out at 15 points, which makes an hour and a half's worth of extra credit points. An hour and a half of your time with him is 15 extra credit points that will go towards your final grade. So whatever you have missed in the past, or whether or not you wanted to, let's just say you have that A+ and you want to get to that last A-, or you think you can get there a little bit even more, then by all means, utilize him or utilize one of the other extra credits. But that's exactly what is expected of you, or when you go into the Public Speaking Resource Center. I'm not sure why I am having a brain fart right now, but please excuse me being a little bit more tired than usual. So that's why I wanted to bring that up this week, even though, again, I'll probably end up bringing it up, but I figured I'd give you about 2 weeks ahead of time. So that way, when you do go into your persuasive speech, maybe you can utilize him prior to. And you also have to remember, you're not the only person, or you're not the only class that is possibly utilizing him. There's at least 10 or 15 more sections of Content 10, which means that you're up against several hundred other students. So you have to remember that when you call him, or if you choose to call him and utilize him, that you may not get the appointment that you would like, because he probably, or he may already have it booked. Week 14, it looks like that is where your extra credit is due, and the rest of your extra credit is due by that Sunday, April 18th. And of course, your persuasive speech for week 14, as well as other things. We'll go into those next week. But for now, what I want to also go over is your engagement activity number 4. So when you go into, let me sort of, this is how it looks. There's actually 4 pages of this. What I want to show you very, very quickly, if I can actually find it here, there we go, is do this really quickly. Module. Week 12. Let's go down here, shall we? Let's go down here, shall we? There we go. So under week 12 and under Ethos, Pathos, Logos, that is your engagement activity number 4. And let's go through this. Come on. There we go. You have 4 PDFs. And of course, what you do is you can submit. I'm not sure why I'm not able, probably because I'm a student or whatever. I'm not a part of a student here. That you can actually upload and submit it. But the thing is those 4 PDFs we'll briefly go over right now. This is what they look like. So there are 4 pages worth of material, and in your chapter that had Ethos, Pathos, Logos, there are about 8 passages, possibly even more. And in your group, you get together and you go over the passage of whoever it is, in fact, all of them, Your first page has the first two, which the first one is from former President Barack Obama at the Potomac primary night speech back on February 12th, 2008. And then the second one is from a person by the name of Brett Arends, can't even pronounce that properly, is Apple becoming a value stock? And that was at marketwatch.com, and it gives you the date. You have to determine as a group, each passage, if it's ethos, pathos, logos. And of course, this has to do with evidence, persuasion, appeal, and logical reasoning. And once you have determined what one of the three is, and it could be a combination of two or all three for all you know, the reason behind that. So on a separate paper, this is the first one. Second page shows you another two. Third page, and you know where I'm going with this, shows you another two. And granted, they're older, but at least it gives you an idea. So what needs to be done is that when you have come together as a group and you have done all of the work together, what it was, one of the three in terms of all 8 of them, and then why you chose ethos, pathos, logos, or maybe 2, or maybe all 3. I mean, I don't know. That's entirely up to you. The next thing is you have one person submit all of the material. If there isn't and right off the top of my head, I cannot remember, but if there is not a submission box for this, then that means that you can email me all of the material. And with that email or with that submission as well, you say who worked in your group as part of it. All of you, 2 of you, 5 of you, however many cases. Now, going back to not necessarily this, but what I want you to understand is this. In order to find out exactly who you are, again, I'm using section 36. So remember, there are 2 sections of you. Just go to the people section. And once again, you go under groups and you find which group you are under. This is the same exact group that worked together for engagement activity number 3. Granted, I haven't changed up as of this video lecture. I haven't changed up. I may change it up and say engagement activity number 4, but nonetheless, that's exactly what it is. It's the same exact group. Find your group and then go from there. So you understand exactly where you're going with this one. Now, we've talked about engagement activity number 4, that it is due the end of this week at 11:59 p.m. on a Sunday. We've talked about extra credit. I can't even talk. Let me talk about now audience analysis number 2 again. So let's do this. Let's do this. I believe I spoke to you about it again last week, but I'm going to say it one more time. Shall we? I should have figured out a little. That's weeks. Here is where you submit it. And this gives you a brief description. So once again, your submission button, you either do it in text or upload a docs, or PDF. While this is all the information and all your directions, this particular one, which is your next portal over, is far more aesthetic looking. So once again, 20 points. You answer all 4 questions. Again, this is a page worth. I don't want one-liners for each one because I will be taking off points. And this is for your persuasion speech. Your biggest difference between this analysis and your last one has to do with ethos, pathos, and logos. Remember, you will be talking about beliefs and values. You will also be talking about adapting to your audience and also the ethical stance that you may have to take. And again, when it comes to your persuasion speech, it's a little bit more tougher to gauge the room and to possibly, I don't want to necessarily say step on anyone's toes, but just be a little bit more strategic as to how to analyze the quote unquote room. So again, 4 questions, 1 page worth, has to do with persuasion. Last question is very important as well, 20 points. Now, let's think about this. You now know that you have these two that are due at the end of this week. You know exactly what's going on when it comes to extra credit. Let's take a look quickly at your exam 2. Actually, the only thing that we need to go over for exam 2 is very quickly, once again, it is next week. These are the chapters that are going to be covered, which is chapters 6 through 11, 15 through 18. 25 questions, 25 points. We're doing it on a Friday. It is due on a Friday, just like the last one, which is April the 9th. So it is due the Friday before your persuasion speech. So think of it that way. In terms of a study guide, I believe you have the last one, which has all the information for this exam as well. If by chance you cannot find your study guide and you go back through all the weeks and you still can't find it within the modules or for whatever the reason, please let me know so that way I can probably send you one. But again, it's just like it was the last time. It's fairly simple. I know it's a pain in the butt, but it is required to do. The rules are not set by me. I just have to enforce them. So that's really as far as it goes. So again, that's due on a Friday, 11:59, April the 9th. So you have to remember that. And of course, I will talk about that once again next week. And finally, let's go over your persuasive speech in a little bit more detailed. So let's do this. Go back into modules really quickly. And let's go down to week number 14. I'll be going through this again next week, but I went through all the details, so it should be good. 7, sorry about that, 11, 12, 13. Now, below week 13, depending on the pattern that you're using, here's a checklist once again as to what type of pattern you're going to be using for your persuasive speech, whether it's a problem solution, whether it's a motivated sequence, a refutative, and also a lot of samples of persuasion speeches that have come through my way and through my class that I found to be very, very helpful as well. They ended up being pretty good. And again, those outlines, if they are that good, then 9 times out of 10, your presentation will carry over from the outline, should you follow it through to the letter. Now, here is your week 14, and let's go through this really, really quickly. Your persuasion speech, again, has to have a visual aid, and obviously the last time your visual aids were 5 points. Now I think it's like 2.5, but again, if you don't have it, then I start taking off points. And this time around, it's not 50 points, it is 70 points. So you get another 20 points. Once again, this is going to be 5 to 7 minutes long. You are to persuade your audience towards a specific and significant action. An action. I'm going to say this for the 3rd time, and I'm not going to stop. Action, which means that you have got to persuade them to take an action, not sit on their asses and just listen to what you have to say. Like, I think we should do this, but an action, meaning you have to put a plan in action to on a specific topic to persuade your audience to get up off their ass and do something with what you want them to understand. I'm going to stress that over and over again. Action. So your next step is to become an effective and successful speaker, learning to make persuasive appeals to your audience. And again, the purpose is to persuade, not to inform. Your persuasive speech has a number of steps that are required. You use your skills that you got from the research of the informative speech, and then you start applying that to your persuasion. You must not only inform your audience about a topic of which you plan to speak on, but your next step is to establish an argument of sort. So what do you want your audience to feel? And again, I've told this to you before. What do you want them to feel? Do you want them to feel angry? Do you want them to feel happy? Do you want them to feel determined? And not just that, but in your introduction, What you want them to feel is part of the relevance. Why should they listen to what you have to say? Once you answer that question, again, you take the answer of that question and you formulate that and you literally insert it into your introduction as to why they should be listening to what you have to say. That is the whole entire point of an argument. They don't care about what you have to say unless you tell them that they need to care as to why it's relevant to them. Because you know what? It's not relevant to me. I don't give a shit until you tell me why it's important for me to listen to you. That's the whole entire point of what the persuasive speech is about. It's its relevancy and the topic that you plan to speak on. Your argument must appeal not only to the mind, but also to the heart. Because if you're passive about the situation, then so am I. I'm not going to get up off my seat if you're not going to get up off your seat. Think of it that way. Emotions play a significant role and a part of a persuasive speaker in terms of logic as well and credibility. And finally, you must determine what type of, say it with me, folks, action you will call the audience to do. So now your choice of persuasive topics, it's going to be vast, but again, it's also more limited to what your informative topic was. Topics should be somewhat controversial. Why? Because that's how you have a more effective argument on your hands than if it wasn't. If it was passive, not going to happen. Think of all of those other types of speeches that I uploaded into your chapters. All the Leonardo DiCaprio's when he was at the embassy unions and talking about climate change. First world problems, she had an informative speech. The last week that you had, you saw the lady talk about cell phones and how dangerous they were. What else was there? So those are just off the top of my head. There are plenty more where that came from, and probably even in your ebook as well. So again, those are things that they want you to do action or they want you to take action. And that is also something to keep in mind. It's, fairly limited, but not so much. And again, it's about taking action. So from that point forward, I lost my train of thought. The topic needs to be universal. You should have some sort of a stake in the topic. At least try and figure that one out. Your topic should be unique. Try and be as creative as you possibly can. And again, your topic it probably has been addressed, but that's okay because this is your turn to make it a little bit more creative way and to have a little twist in the approach of the topic. Now, the source of the speech should come from outside of your experience, unless, of course, you do have some sort of experience with a controversial topic. So that way it can come off more effectively. Use your knowledge only as the basis of your appeal. If there's a topic, again, that you are passionate about, please, please, please use that as well, or use that, because the most effective way to become persuasive is something that's coming from your heart. Because from your heart, you can actually hear it through your voice. You're going to actually want to do all the research and nail it home. That's the whole point of having a persuasive topic or delivering a persuasive speech. And again, research is very, very key in this situation as well. Explore further exploration. I can't even talk. I encourage you to do so. If your informative topic is something that you can expand and argue about, I more than encourage you to do that as well. There have actually been several informative speeches where someone could easily take that speech and make it into an argument. It's that simple. You were unbiased in what you had to say in your informative. Now you have the option, if you love that speech so much, is there a way to argue something about that topic? I don't know, because there were so many to talk about. I've already gone through a couple when it came to social media, seasonal depression. So there may be some sort of argument, although they were unbiased topics and they were informative, there may be a twist in any of those where it can actually be an argument that you have in order for your audience to take action upon it. You are required to cite 5 sources when you present your argument at the bare minimum. The actual, what's the word that I want to say? The actual class, in terms of all of content, Com 1010, requires 6. I only require 5. because I don't need you to go outside and just continue to start look. If you find more, fantastic. I'm okay with that. But the bare minimum is 5. And they have to be credible sources. You can use 1 in terms of an interview because there may be an interview in there that you want. But again, an interview is mostly about opinion. They may be an expert in their field, but again, that unless they are some sort of, researcher, and you're getting there and you're interviewing that researcher that can speak to a certain argument, then that's one thing. But a person that's been working in their field, a seasoned worker that doesn't have some sort of research background, that's a different story altogether. If you have those, that's fantastic, but they have to be limited to just 1. Remember that. Language will closely be observed. Be concerned of not only what you say, but how you say it. Proficiency with volume, rate, and eye contact are very important. Again, language was important for the informative because you had to remember to not sound persuasive. Now you have to not only sound persuasive, but be deliberate as to what you say. So when you tell someone or when you tell your audience, you're fighting for climate change. I mean, you use the word, I'm trying to persuade you to do this because I think it's very important that you take this side. So I highly encourage that you start looking into the thesaurus and start looking at all the synonyms in terms of what persuasion is. So that way you can incorporate those types of words and that type of language into your speech. Choose your topic, research it, figure out the organizational pattern that you need. Don't forget you need a visual aid. Look to your audience analysis to answer your own statement of relevancy in your speech. It's what I just said at the beginning of this. Prepare that full sentence outline. Don't forget, for your full sentence, remember to insert your in-text citation in your uploaded outline. And if you need to know, once again, what that's about, in-site taxation is different. That was the biggest argument or the biggest takeaway when it came to your outlines. And that was that you remember to put in the citation as if you were saying it orally, but then you forgot to do the insight. Because remember, you're uploading an outline. What is that? That's not oral, that's written. So you have to have that insight taxation. Why? Because Unicheck is going to continue to start like flagging you like, oh, they're they're plagiarizing. So for the percentage to be low and not just that, I mean, I don't look past 10%, but once it goes past 10% in the plagiarism machine, if you will, then that's when I start looking as to where did that person get what against. So that's something that you have to remember. Also, what you need to remember is when you go into the rubric of the outline, the very bottom, it said it said sources, MLA format. So in order to get the 5 points, it is highlighted that you do insight taxation. So again, remember that because many of you missed it in your outline. Remember to submit your works cited page, which will reflect a minimum of 5 references. And again, your works cited page is uploaded separately than your actual outline. Your choice for your actual presentation can be full sentence or keyword. And again, it must be on note cards. This time around for your informative, it was 5 points. Now it's going to be, it's less than 5 points, and now it's even lower. But nonetheless, that tells me that you can prepare it and start presenting it with a full body. Because if I see you sit down, points are taken off. Once again, if I do not see any type of cue cards in front, that what that is telling me and what that is telling your audience is that you probably have everything already up on the screen and you're just reading it off the screen. And guess what? When you do this stuff face to face in front of a live studio audience, you're not going to have the luxury of talking to them and having your cue cards on your laptop. In fact, you're going to have to deal with having cue cards unless you can absolutely memorize your entire speech. And here's the thing, I don't encourage you to memorize your entire speech. I don't encourage you to do that. In fact, I encourage you to have your cue cards because you're going to get points for that. And if you don't have it because you want to be the big man on campus and completely, memorize it, points are taken off. Remember that. No more than 1 dictionary or encyclopedia source, must have 1 academic peer-reviewed source. that is preferred. If that doesn't kick in, then I understand in terms of the academic peer review. But it's highly encouraged. And again, only a dictionary or one encyclopedia, that's it. So that's, this is the basis of your persuasive speech. For week 13, when I do your next video lecture, I'm just going to refer you back to this week's, so I don't spend so much time on this particular thing, direction, I should say. Here is how you are going to be graded. Remember, your informative speech was worth 10 points. This time around, your persuasive speech is worth 15 points when it comes to your introduction. Why? Because the breakdown kicks in where your proposition statement has to be clear, challenging, and persuasive. So again, your proposition statement. Go back to your chapters. What was it? Not 15, 16. Was it 15, 16, 17? I can't remember, and my apologies for that one. But it was within the last chapters that we talked about a proposition statement. In your body, it goes further in, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. 30 points for your body. Again, sources. An organized, logical, persuasive manner. Language, again, is key. Transitional phrases. Here is where there are extra 10 points. Effective reasoning. Use of logic. Emotional, persuasive appeal. Why? Because that is ethos, pathos, logos. There you go. Policy clear, addressed, plan, and practicality. So this is what I want to be fully and crystal clear about. Your plan has to be in your body. The body, meaning the action plan that you have for it, that you want to set for your audience, has to be in the body of your speech, not, and I repeat, not in your conclusion. Think about it. You're going to reiterate things in your conclusion. What you're not going to do is put your plan of action that you want in your conclusion. It's in the body. Whichever of your patterns are, that last portion of your body of the speech has to have that plan of action. If not, if it goes into your into your conclusion, that's where points are going to be deducted again. 10 points once again for your conclusion, summarized, reviewed, and again, you bring up your proposition, call for action, and provided a closure. Now, again, you can have the call of action in your conclusion, but your plan has to be in your body. And your delivery, again, same thing. Extemporaneous manner, use of your note cards, your appropriate vocal rates, your characteristics. They're going to go up and down. The volume's going to be more. The emotions are going to be further. That's where the vocal characteristics come in. Eye contact, expression, gestures, whatnot. And again, you will have points taken off for going over or under. Now, here's the one thing. There were many of you that not only went, I gave the leeway, and I had said it before, and I was okay with that. If you do 430, the minimum is 430, the maximum is 730. And so after that, that's when 5 points are taken off. So that's, if you did 8 minutes, it's not, I wasn't necessarily going to get mad. It's just 5 points taken off, whatever. What I was concerned with, no one bothered. I mean, there was one that had 14 minutes long. There was another one that was like 10 and a half or 12, whatever the case was. There were so many that was like way over. It wasn't just 30 seconds or a minute. It was 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever. So the next time around, and again, I'm going to refer it back to this. If this happens, not only will you get that 5-point deduction just for going over, but you're going to get 5 points of deduction for every 30 seconds after that. So if it's like more than 8 minutes, you're going to have to remember, you're going to continue to get 5 points deducted. Why? Because there's a reason why there's a time frame. One, because, there's 30 of you. Two, because you have to keep everyone's attention to and have them focus on you. When you continue to start talking, your audience loses you're going to lose your audience's attention. They're going to start disconnecting. They're not going to give a shit as to what you're going to say, because at that point, they're just going to start looking at their phones. So you have to remember that There's a reason for the time frame. And if you are in a business meeting and there's only like 15 minutes left in your business meeting and you have to say something and you're only given like 10 minutes, you know what's going to happen when everyone has to leave? They're not going to stick around because you are still talking. They're going to take all their crap and they're going to leave. Why? Because you went over your allotted time. They don't have time for this. You can say everything effectively within the 5 to 7 minutes. But once it starts going way over, it's just not going to work itself out for you. So keep that in mind. Roll, roll, roll. Where you upload your persuasive speech, right here. Again, you know the rules, 20 points right there. It is the same exact outline and rubric for your informative, the same exact one. And here's where I talked about source, MLA format. You want the maximized 5 points. It has to be in parenthetical citations, 5 of them. Keep that in mind. Is this going to go down? There we go. Works cited page, 10 points. You see where it's uploaded. Same exact thing. And it's the same exact rubric for you for your works cited page as well. So that is exactly what we're looking at when it comes to the next couple of weeks. This week's attendance is just about this engagement activity number 4. We've gone over audience analysis number 2, engagement activity number 4, what you can do when it comes to extra credit and when it's actually due. Exam 2, again, if you do need a study guide, you know where to find me if you can't find it within the mess of the modules. I went extensively over persuasive speech, the directions, what is expected of you and whatnot. And again, your attendance this week has to do with engagement activity number 4. So you guys should be all set for this week. If there are any questions, just let me know. It's just a matter of now just starting work on your persuasive speech, along with all these little things that need to get done. 20 points of your audience analysis, the 10 points when it comes to your engagement activity. Don't forget, you know exactly where to go in order to get your group together, in order to do everything. You've seen all 4 PDFs. You know only one person is supposed to upload and be the point person as to, and it's up to you guys to figure out who to elect as your point person to not only upload everything, but to also make sure that everyone's name is accounted for as working as a group. And if someone isn't a part of that group, or if someone decided not to show up, then also that needs to be said as well. If I see another 20 uploads, like I did for the informative, for the first one, they're just going to stay blank. And it's going to stay that way until something kicks in, until you listen to the directions properly. Because I'm tired of going back and forth. I was like juggling back and forth and I decided to forget about it because I don't know who was working with who. So remember that. Or I don't know who was the point person because everyone decided to be their own point person. Let's just put it that way. So you guys know what to do. Need any questions or need any questions answered? You know where to find me. Have a great week. Don't forget to stay safe and hopefully no more COVID. Bye-bye.